How silly would it be for someone to come to you and say, I just don't understand why you're a Coca-Cola. And you'd be going, what? Why I'm a Coca-Cola? That doesn't make any sense. That's crazy. But yet if somebody says you're unlovable, we somehow believe it rather than go, sounds like Coca-Cola to me. And so I use the Coca-Cola technique to detach myself from that nonsense, because it's nonsense. It's not the truth. Thank you for joining me. This is a video about 20 insults you commonly hear in a narcissistic family, from very subtle ones to very extreme ones. Have you ever been told you're just too sensitive? You're just so selfish. If so, you're not alone. If you heard something like this from a parent, you know the pain it causes. Now, other families besides narcissists can use these as well. In narcissistic families, insults aren't just words. They're strategic weapons designed to make you feel small, dependent, and powerless. I'm Jerry Wise, and for over 45 years, I've helped people to break free from toxic family dynamics. My mission is to help you discover the self you were never allowed to have. A strong, confident, and independent you. And together we build a life free from control, manipulation, and emotional pain. Let's break down the types of insults you often hear in narcissistic families, from most subtle to the most extreme, why they're so destructive, and how you can begin to protect yourself. Most common insults you hear in narcissistic families. Number 1, subtle insults. They seem harmless but undermine you over time. For example, 1, you're just too sensitive. This insults your emotional responses by implying that you're weak, making you feel ashamed for expressing yourself. Number 2, you're just overreacting. It belittles your emotions by suggesting you're irrational, you're emotionally unregulated, and leading you to suppress your own feelings, but in an unhealthy way. There may be a healthy time to suppress your feelings, but not in this unhealthy way they're suggesting. Number 3, stop being so emotional. This insults your emotional expression by labeling it excessive, making you feel like your feelings are invalid or crazy. Number 4, I was just joking. Don't be so dramatic. It disguises criticism as humor, making you feel like you're overreacting and can't take a joke. Number 5, you're imagining things. This insults your perception by implying you're delusional, causing you to doubt your own reality. And that's one of those gaslighting insults. You're just imagining things. A second category of insults is guilt and shame-based insults. Firstly, everything's always about you, isn't it? It accuses you of being selfish, making you feel guilty, and guilty of just having needs. Number 2, after all I've done for you, this is how you repay me? This insults your gratitude by implying you're unappreciative and making you feel obligated to comply, and that you still owe them from years past. Number 3, you'll regret this when I'm gone. It manipulates you through guilt, making you afraid to make independent choices. In other words, just remember you're going to feel really, really guilty, but do what you want. And of course, we don't want to feel guilty after they're gone. But typically, I have also told people who are clients and people I've worked with, if they're using this type of technique and you fear you will feel guilty after they're gone, then come and see me. I'll help you with that. And I'll help you get over that. Don't live under the fear of that. That can be resolved. Number 4, I sacrificed everything for you. This insults your independence by implying you are a burden or making you feel unworthy, and that you haven't sacrificed for anything in your life, only they have. Number 5, why can't you be like your brother, your sibling, your cousin, aunt, your nephew, why can't you be more like them? It insults your uniqueness by comparing you negatively, leading to feelings of inadequacy. You're worse than your father, or your sister's worse than you. It's whenever you use those comparison insults, they are insulting and do challenge us feeling adequate. A third category is direct character attacks, destroying and affecting self-worth. For example, number 1, you're such a disappointment. This insults your ability by labeling you as a failure and making you, or often we feel, worthless. The reason why I have a hard time with making you, because later I tell you how some of those feelings we're choosing because of the family programming. It's not because they're making you do it, but it's the normal programming that we do it. But either way, we often feel worthless because of those kinds of insults. And also it leaves open, well then, how would I not be a disappointment? Usually it means by complying, by doing what I want, by believing what I believe, by being me. You would not be a disappointment. Oh, that's not very helpful for a self. Number 2, you're just like your father. You're just like your sister. It insults your individuality by comparing you to someone they dislike, making you feel flawed. And again, they will use, well, you're just like somebody who acts negatively. And it's like, well, I'm not them. They're not me. Even if we do act alike in some ways, I'm still not them and they're still not me. But if I can blend those together, I might be able to insult you and cause some lower self-esteem and lower self-worth. Number 3, you always ruin everything. You can't just get along. You always have to bring these things up. You always make something that is not fun, and this insults your competence by blaming you for problems and making you feel like the constant failure and the constant problem maker. And I never like using always, never, those kinds of words, even in marriage counseling or even in when we talk about, you always ruin everything. Did I ruin yesterday as well as the day before and the day before that? Always ruin everything? Because it's an overstatement meant to insult or to demean someone. And then fourthly, of course, we have, well, you're so selfish. You're just so selfish. It attacks your character by implying you don't care about others, making you feel guilty for prioritizing yourself. If you go, well, this is what I would like to do. Oh, that's selfish language to use I, because you should be using we or what I think we should do. So you can't have a boundary, you can't have an opinion, you can't be unique or autonomous without being selfish, because you're just all stuck on yourself. And of course, that's a very distorted view of selfishness. And the ultimate selfishness is to try to control someone else's selfhood while affirming your own and making it dominant, like a narcissistic parent might. That's the ultimate selfishness. Number 5, no one cares about your opinion. And this insults your intelligence by dismissing your thoughts, making you feel invisible and unimportant. No one cares about your opinion. And especially on this, you don't even go to the same church we go to, or the same mosque, or whatever religious organization. So no one cares about your opinion. Well, who's an expert on everything? I'd like to meet them sometime. And I can have opinions on things I'm not a part of. But no one cares about your opinion, and that is to make you feel small, weak, demeaned, and, just shut up is really the message. What's the next category of insults? Extreme insults, attacking your core identity and self-worth. First of all, number 1, you're lucky we even put up with you. It insults your value by implying you've been a burden or making you feel unwanted. You're lucky we even put up with you. Number 2, no one else would put up with you. This insults your worth by isolating you and making you feel unlovable and dependent, because no one would put up with you. So you need to be really, really grateful that we had you and you have us as parents. Thirdly, you're impossible to love. It insults your core self by suggesting you're fundamentally unworthy of love, causing deep emotional pain. And again, we do it with kind of words like, you're stupid. We label your whole being with this insult. You're stupid. And that's very, very damaging for a child. And then we have to do the work of self-differentiation later on in life to get that out of us, because it's not a true part of us. It is a forced into us part of us, or a borrowed part of us that we have borrowed from the toxic, dysfunctional family we grew up in. But it's not the true us. And I remember having a difficulty coming to that conclusion, even to believe that. Because I remember when I was pastoring, I just felt I was very codependent and just wanted everybody to be happy and everybody to be happy with me and, well, good luck. And there was a family who was pretty critical of me about many things. And I'm just Jerry. I mean, I've never done anything bad to you. Don't want to. I have always tried to treat you with respect and things like that, because those are my values. But they were, Jerry doesn't like us. Jerry thinks he's better than us. And it all was projection on their part. They had both, husband and wife had grown up with physically abusive fathers. Well, I was a pastor. Well, who's the father figure in the church? Now I became their father. For no reason. I had never abused them, but I got the unresolved issues coming my way. And I think that feeling bad and self-doubt that, are they right? Am I really bad? Am I really treating them bad? And I kept days and days going over that, trying to sort that out. I even talked to associate pastors, and I talked to, different people. Am I treating them this way, and I'm trying to get them to say, no. But I hadn't decided for myself whether that was true or not. And so I remember the night I sat down and went, either they're wrong or I'm wrong. And I have to make a decision. And it was one of the biggest breakthroughs I had. Because, I said, well, does that mean you don't have any doubts? Or maybe I'm not perfect. I don't do everything right. But I still had a sense of, that's not me, though. What they're saying isn't me. And that began to turn the tide on this whole mess that I was dealing with. And I began to learn to do some self-differentiation work where I could pick the right time to talk about the things that I was over talking about and should have held close to my vest, but to bring them out at the right time. But I was talking about them because I was being reactive. And when I stopped being reactive and calmed down, then I didn't have to blab everything I knew to everybody, which made it look like, well, is Jerry trying to convince me that he hasn't done this? And so it turned out actually well, but it was not fun. And so we have number 4, you'll never be good enough, is another insult. This insults your self-esteem by making success feel impossible, leaving you feeling inadequate. Number 5, you're worthless. I think I've mentioned that one. It directly attacks your entire sense of self, leading to the feelings of hopelessness and despair, because you are nothing. You are worthless. You mean nothing. You're not lovable. Just an attack of insults and shame, which should blot out your being and blot out your personhood. And there's worse ones than that. And, parents can swear and do all kinds of things and degrade you physically, body shaming, all kinds of other insults that can come to make you comply and to make you feel controllable for them. So, why do these insults do more than hurt your feelings? Because they have shaped and reshaped our identity, eroding our self-worth, leaving you dependent on their approval. Now I spend the rest of my life trying to convince them I'm not worthless, and that I am worthy, and that I am lovable. And so I have to spend the rest of my life doing that. Now, that's a very exhausting thing to do. Often you have to do it a while until you're ready to give it up. But that's hard to give it up, because if I give it up, then I cannot have the fantasy or the dream of having the parent I always wanted, who actually cares about me, who actually loves me, who actually supports me. So if I give up the belief in what they're saying, then it kind of throws into stark contrast. This isn't going to happen, and you're not going to have the parent who will parent you in a loving, mature, nurturing, caring, adult way. If we're both adults, the parent and us, it's not going to happen. And many of us don't want to give up that fantasy. I certainly did not. I thought, well, let's just keep trying. If we just keep trying, something might happen. Well, you can try all that you would like. You have my permission to do that. And then when you're ready, you can take a look at a way in which you could self-differentiate and become free, and then have a different or newer relationship with that parent. Some choose no relationship. Some choose a more limited relationship. And every parent is different. So not every parent, even every narcissistic parent, is different. And there are some things when we start to let go of the apron strings, the umbilical cords, emotional with parents, it can affect the relationship for the positive. But I don't want to hold out a whole lot of hope. It's troubling. Now, over time, the parents attack your sense of self and your reality with these insults. They create self-doubt. They sabotage your confidence. They keep you trapped in the family's emotional Wi-Fi and the family's toxic dynamics. And one of the things I do is help people turn off the family Wi-Fi and cut the cords with the family toxic dynamics. And by the way, I don't mean by that you never talk to your family or never with them. I'm talking about the internal process of disconnecting from the family's toxic dynamics. Self-differentiation tips to break free from narcissistic insults. Reduce your reactivity to their insults. Learn not to care and stay calm. Those are not easy things. I know they are not easy things, but even doing that poorly will give you some freedom and might give you a pathway to finding yourself. So, and anything worth doing, I've always said, is worth doing poorly, because it's still worth doing. And just like learning not to care. Maybe you can not care about this insult, but the next one you do care about. Well, the next one, don't care about it. I mean, they are them and you are you. So what that somebody thinks you're stupid? Which actually, in many ways, the offender doesn't really even believe that. It's just a way to control. But, somebody can think I'm the worst therapist, coach, pastor, whatever in the world. And I go, so what? And what's your real problem? And that's why the family that I was struggling with in church, that's what they were kind of saying, that you can't have a worse pastor than me. It's kind of like, but so many people have always said I've done such a good job. But here I am believing this negative thing because I had a lack of confidence and self-esteem. And then began to learn not to care. I don't care. If that's what they want to think, they're free to think that. I'm not going to live out the trouble of that. I'm going to shift the burden of this emotional conflict to them. You can then keep not liking me if you want. If you want to waste your time doing that, you're free to do it. But I'm not going to worry about it anymore. Use a Coca-Cola technique that I have suggested, which is when you hear somebody saying, I don't think you are not lovable for anybody to love you. What I think is they are actually describing and calling me a Coca-Cola. That's how much sense this is. How silly would it be for someone to come to you and say, I just don't understand why you're a Coca-Cola. And you'd be going, what? Why I'm a Coca-Cola? That doesn't make any sense. That's crazy. But yet if somebody says you're unlovable, we somehow believe it rather than go, sounds like Coca-Cola to me. And so I use the Coca-Cola technique to detach myself from that nonsense, because it's nonsense. It's not the truth. Also, remember, and this is something I use a lot in self-differentiation, I am not them and they are not me. They can be as crazy and nutty as they want to be about who they think I am, Perfectly fine. But they're not me, and that's not what I believe about me. But they're free to believe that if they want. And if other people believe them, then other people are believing them at their own peril. And at some point, they may come to realize they were wrong. Maybe not, but many times they do come to see that, hey, oh, well, maybe their parent wasn't all that accurate about their child. Duh. Maybe not. Ask. If they never change, and they're going to continue to do this forever, for the rest of your life, how would you feel? How would you think? And how would you behave differently? And then I will also add on there, what kind of relationship would you like to have with them? They're not going to change. Not one bit. How are you going to, what are you going to do with the relationship? And if they never changed, are you going to change how you think about you? That's kind of what I mean. How would you feel? How would you think? How would you behave differently? Because you're up against something that's unchangeable or very possibly unchangeable. And I believe people can change, but I believe there are some people that the chances of changing are very, very small. But how would you think, feel, and behave differently? My parent is always going to think this way about me. Am I going to care about that? Am I going to live my life according to it? Isn't it rather ridiculous that they think that way? Why am I falling prey to their inner immaturity and personality disorder? Why am I doing that? That seems rather a foolish thing to do. So, if you're ready to finally break free from the grip of dysfunctional family dynamics and build a strong, confident sense of self, free from others' control, manipulation, or dysfunction, then join me in the free training that I have listed below. Absolutely free, 84 minutes. You'll learn a lot of stuff. Start building the self you were never allowed to have. Click the link below and get started. And don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon to see new videos I publish every week. It's time to get your family out of you and finally live as your true, differentiated self. I want to thank you for watching. Have a great day and be wise.